In this edition of Savor, host Will Smith speaks with the founder of Jacobsen Salt, based on the Oregon coast, about the process of salt production. You can find Jacobsen Salt at Fred Meyer and Market of Choice stores in Oregon and specialty markets throughout the listening region.
Hey everybody, it's Will. This is Savor on Jefferson Public Radio. This is a part of the Jefferson Exchange, and I'm super excited to have Ben Jacobsen as my guest today, a fantastic salt maker here in the northwestern part of Oregon. How are you, Ben?
Hi, Will. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm just so, I'm a huge fan. I go every summer, August, and spend a week in Netarts, and that's probably where I first saw your business. And of course, now I see that you're looking for a salt maker. And if I was 10 years younger, I think you'd have to beat me off with a stick there. So tell me, I'm just curious how you got started in wanting to make salt, and then also sort of your search in finding the right location.
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. We hire salt makers of all ages, so
Okay.
so feel free to apply. Although I don't want to take you from Jefferson Public Radio. So so I discovered kind of good salt when I was living in Scandinavia. I lived in Denmark and then in Norway for about 5 years, and found out about good salt there and moved back here to Oregon and started looking around and realized nobody in America was making great finishing salt,
Sure.
like finishing salt, and was kind of honestly just I didn't know, if there was a reason for that. And so I just kind of began to dive deeper into it and started to try and figure out if it was even possible, and then quickly did. And then worked on our process, and then worked on our sourcing, testing 27 different spots of seawater from northern Washington coast all the way down to Gold Beach in Oregon.
All right. And Netarts sort of stood out.
Yeah, it absolutely did, and clearly stood out to you as well. Although maybe not for salt making, but it's a beautiful protected marine estuary on the northern Oregon coast. It's about 85 miles from Portland, and a couple of reasons that it's so special, especially for salt making, is that it has an exceptionally high salinity content. So, very few freshwater inputs run into the bay, one of which is seasonal. And so it's a very, for the Oregon coast, quite high salinity. And then combine that with the fact that tens of millions of oysters are farmed
Sure.
on the coast, in the bay. And oysters, of course, being bivalve shellfish, filter seawater to eat. And so an individual oyster can filter up to about 20 gallons of water a day. And
Wow.
when you multiply that across, tens of millions of these little bivalves, it makes for some pretty special salt making conditions.
Yeah, and I have to say, for people who have not been there, it to me is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Reminds me of, I grew up in San Diego, so I have a lot of memories of the 60s, Bodega Bay area, and it really does have that, Central California sort of look to it, but it's a high point on the coast, so I urge people to make a visit out there, because it's absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So
And we're just 1 mile north of Cape Lookout State Park, so it's a great way to combine a visit as well.
yeah, God, it's fantastic. So explain the process a little bit to me. So I'm kind of interested in you're actually pulling water directly from the bay.
Yes, absolutely. We before we were there on our property, there was Pearl Point Oyster, an oyster farm that had been there for about a dozen years, and the oyster farmer decided she wanted to do something else, and so we cobbled our way to figure out how to get the property, and finally did. And prior to that, I was of course trucking seawater over the Coast Range into Portland to make salt, which was of course, not sustainable or scalable. But
that's a chore.
yeah, so we filter seawater, and we pump seawater into we have about 2.5-inch diameter PVC pipe that goes into the bay. It's a pretty underwhelming little pipe, but it does the job. And so we filter seawater, and then we boil it. And we boil it, of course, to remove the volume of the seawater, but then most importantly to remove a lot of the calcium and magnesium that would otherwise give our salt a very bitter taste.
Okay.
And then we let it very slowly evaporate. And where salt crystals form on the surface and then fall to the bottom of the pan. And this is about a 2.5-week process from seawater to dry flake of salt.
All right.
Where we then harvest the salt crystals off the bottom of the pan, let them drain, and then dry them, and then sift every single one of them before being put into a package.
Amazing. And speaking about the different products, you have quite a few, dozens of sort of infused. I'm a huge fan of your cherry wood salt, which I just think is spectacular. But you're doing many other flavored salts, as well as the flakes and kosher style.
Yeah, absolutely. Our cherrywood smoked salt is definitely a favorite. It's smoked over Oregon cherrywood chips, and provides a nice smoky flavor to anything that you add it to, of course. And then, some of my favorites are our black garlic salt. If you haven't had black garlic, it's worth a shot.
That's a treat.
It's almost kind of the savory / sweet version of garlic. And it's been fermented and then dried and then blended up into our salt. And it's incredibly special.
I've used black garlic for making popcorn, and people will see me buying it at the supermarket, and they're like, "What is that? What do you do with that?" And it is a divine little morsel of flavor. Packs a wallop, and really intense and sweet and smoky, and I don't know, it's delicious. So
it sure is, yeah.
So now, as far as people finding you, I do want to mention to everyone that your website's absolutely beautiful. There's beautiful short films about the area, and also testimonials of you, photographs of your product and the area. So I urge everybody to get on your website. I did also want to remind everybody that this is Savor on Jefferson Public Radio. We are part of the Jefferson Exchange, and today we have Ben Jacobsen of Jacobsen Salt. So tell us a little bit more about sort of what was the initial quest of were you kind of coming from a culinary background?
Unfortunately, I was not coming from a culinary background. I certainly appreciated great cooking and great food, and I think it probably would have been an easier process had I come from a culinary or chemistry background. Right. But this was really just a labor of love and a passion that I wanted to figure out. And frankly, we still are figuring out to this day. Seawater is a raw, completely natural, obviously input that is alive, and as a result, anyone can make salt. However, it's incredibly difficult to make great salt consistently from an ever-changing source of seawater.
Right.
And so, to me, that's part of the mystery, but also part of the allure of it is that we're really just trying to distill and capture a very small slice of time in a flake of salt.
It reminds me a lot of almost winemaking in that, you're going to have seasonal differences. The water must change sort of from year to year. And I guess, that's the difficult part, is to make things consistent.
Certainly is, yeah. And it's as much art as it is science, really, and craftsmanship. And, really the chefs and home cooks that have come to love and appreciate and buy our salts also appreciated because of its consistency.
Right.
And so it's our job to make sure that, we put out as absolutely high quality of products as we can every single time. And hopefully we can then play, a small yet significant supporting role in a chef's dish that they put out, to, a piece of buttered toast with a sprinkle of Jacobsen flake salt.
Right.
So it can be simple or, to complex.
Sure. It's fascinating to me the fact that you can have all these different sort of additives into it to sort of expand the product line, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you a bit. Besides the website, how do you have you have your beautiful shop in Neat Arts, which is gorgeous. And are there any other areas where people can find your products?
Absolutely, yeah. So our little gift shop right on the bay in Neat Arts is a wonderful place to visit. And of course, JacobsenSalt.com, Jacobsen with an E, salt.com. And then, I should know these numbers off the top of my head, but we sell our salt to, in Jefferson County, I actually don't know, and I should. So my apologies there, but we sell to hundreds of retailers in the state of Oregon, from, Salt and Straw, the ice cream shop that you may or may not have heard about, to New Seasons Grocery. I don't believe they're in Jefferson County, to all sorts of little great little gift shops and specialty markets.
And then about how many employees are you taking care of at this point?
Yeah, we have about 46 employees right now, and that we of course do all of our own manufacturing. So we make salt from seawater, so a lot of that is our manufacturing and packaging team as well.
Do you have another location other than the being right there on the bay that you're working out of?
Yes, we have a headquarters in Portland.
Okay.
And originally we tried to kind of run operations, full time out of the coast, and that was the very, very early days. But quickly we figured out that shipping packaging across the Coast Range and then back didn't make a whole lot of sense. So being as close to our customers as possible made sense.
Good. Super. Well, I'm super looking forward to visiting the shop again next week. So, and I urge everybody to do so. Now, regarding that salt making position, how long of a training procedure is there with that?
Oh yeah, it's a few week training procedure, and frankly, even our most experienced salt makers are still learning, as am I.
I bet. And you learn every year. Yeah.
I hope we learn something new every day, and so in both in salt making and in life. So it's a couple of week training process, and then it's constant kind of guidance as we hopefully make the best salt on the planet.
That's so great. So great. So all our listeners, definitely try and get out to Neat Arts sometime during the summer. It's absolutely a beautiful location. And while you're there, definitely take a trip over to Jacobsen Salt. Ben Jacobsen, thank you so much. I know this is super fast, but I wanted to thank you so much. You were on the top of my list of people I wanted to get in on the show. So I appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having me on, Will. Really appreciate it.
Okay, all the best. This is Savor, a part of the Jefferson Exchange on Jefferson Public Radio. You can find us wherever you download your podcasts from, Spotify, Apple, or on our website.